Good Tuesday morning, May 16th. This is the Bat X Release Show on Covers with Derek Carty. I'm your host, Josh Ingalls. It was getting everything in sometimes is fun. It's hit or miss on how much the market moves at certain points of the day. And Larry B really mentioned it there in the chat that the markets were really moving at this point of the day, which is interesting.
Yeah, the markets have moved a lot since this morning. There's one play that we're kind of off entirely. We've lost quite a few points on some of these others, but I still think we have a bunch of good plays today. So let's get to them.
Yeah, it's always nice to see when Derek sends the first message of the day that it's not a barren market. There's lots of value, so certainly let's get right to that. This is the release procedure. We'll tell you the best place to find the bet. We'll tell you which book has the best odds, hopefully some secondary books as well. Follow that by the game in question. We'll give you some time. Go find that game. We'll tell you the prop we're betting on, the player, the over, under, and making sure we have some time between it so everybody can get that number and hopefully watch those numbers move. Record is still what? What was that? What was the move last week? 40 points in the show? I think, yeah 40 points. That's one's going to be tough to beat. So let's get right to it. A very busy day here. Starting off release number one, we're at Bet365. Secondary book would include BetMGM.
Yep. Yeah, same exact line at MGM.
So in order, we try to put the ones we think are going to move the fastest in order. So if you're wondering how we rank these in entirety, that's how we do it. The game in question, Cleveland at Chicago, the Guardians at the White Sox. Head over to player props. Head over to pitcher strikeouts. And for release number one, number is still there. Shane Bieber under 5.5 Ks minus 120. Shane Bieber under 5.5 Ks minus 120. Let us know where you got it. Let us know if those lines are moving. Bieber coming off a 9K performance, Derek, but versus the Tigers. So let's not let that fool us. Had exactly 4 Ks in 5 straight starts before that. 6-2 to the under on the season. What's Bieber's projections here, bud?
Bieber's projecting for 4.7 strikeouts in the bat. So 3/4 of a strikeout under at minus 120. Looks pretty good. Projects to win about 66% of the time. He's going into the 4th best hitters park in baseball. It's a park that does suppress strikeouts a little bit. The White Sox are not like the most imposing offense by any means, but they're not an especially high strikeout offense. So that's good. And this number is really good. I mean, Pinnacle has this minus 160 already today. So if you can get in minus 120, minus 130, you're looking good on this one.
Absolutely. Nice little chat there about a little Pablo Lopez. Your numbers were popping on Lopez last night. I got plus 145.
Yeah.
He was a 17.5, and he got hit hard early and often in that game. So let's hit Shane Bieber under 5.5 Ks to start things off. Minus 120. That was at 365. And BetMGM at the same. We're starting to see DK minus 129. Moose says minus 125 at Bet Rivers. So glad to see. What would you take this line up to? Minus 140?
I mean, you're still getting value at minus 140. I'd rather get it minus 130, minus 135 if you can.
That's kind of your limit there?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. It's just a matter of what your threshold is, But there's still plenty of value at minus 140.
Perfect. Let's move on to release number 2. Sticking at 365, secondary books include Bet Rivers. This was one that was added in the beginning, taken off and added again. But when you look at the market, there's no reason for this not to be on the card. The game in question, Seattle at Boston. Head over to player props. Head over to pitcher strikeouts. For release number 2, we are on a Seattle starting pitcher, Luis Castillo, under 5.5 Ks, minus 140. Luis Castillo under 5.5 Ks, minus 140. Let us know what number you're looking at. because a bunch of books at 4.5 right now, and no Pinnacles at 4.5. We had Castillo over in our last one, and just his inefficiency, he's throwing a ton of pitches. He's not missing a ton of bats right now. 4 starts, a near 5 ERA over his last 4 starts, 1.41 whip. What are the projections here on Castillo, Derek?
Projection is 4.3. So you're at the 5.5 number. We're getting more than a full strikeout under. He's going into Boston. He's facing a Red Sox offense that is pretty good and is very, very low strikeout. It's the third best hitters park in baseball. It's the best hitting weather of the day. It's like close to 80 degrees with 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to dead center. Like you said, the rest of the market, there's a bunch of 4.5 lines out there. Even in the 4.5 lines, if that's where the market settles, if you get 4.5 plus 125 plus 130, like those are really good too. So you're kind of splitting hairs between which number you like better. I'm fine either way. The 5.5 is going to win more. The 4.5, you're going to win more money when you win. So it's just a matter of risk tolerance and personal preference, but both lines are good.
Yeah, when we're looking at those numbers, my idea and role here is it under 4.5? It is. The projection 4.3. Am I getting decent plus money? Plus 120? Yes, I am. That's a double yes. It's what, even at 4.5, it's what, like a 53, 54, 55% win probability?
Yeah, the bet, it looks like about 58 actually. So it's
so good at that calculation. I'll get better at it. That's for sure. Excuse me, everybody. Do you guys usually find that Bet365 has the best lines for these props? Other books that are less sharp for MLB props? I know for a fact that Bet365 has the best prices for the outs market, especially the big ones, the under 17.5s and the over 18.5. Those are the best prices there. For strikeouts, I think it's a market catch-up game where I think Bet365 is a little sharper on strikeouts sometimes than other books.
They can be sometimes. They can be a little slower to move sometimes. It seems like when the market is moving, so you'll wind up, if you catch it at the right time, maybe getting the best line at 365. We do tend to gravitate towards them a little bit more. I feel like lately we've had more there, but today it's more convenient to stay there, but you can find the same line at several other books for some of these.
Okay, let's keep it rolling here. Release number 3, still a Bet365. Secondary books, DK. And if you're in Ontario and you have Botano, you might even get a better number, but that could have moved since opening or since we started the show. But if you have a Botano account, maybe jump over there if you're in Ontario in the legal market. The game in question, Minnesota at the Dodgers. Yikes. The Twins at the Dodgers. Let's go. Pitcher outs. For release number 3, the number is still there. Minnesota starting pitcher Bailey Ober under 17.5 outs, minus 150. Ober under 17.5 outs, minus 150. If you hit Pablo yesterday, then this is kind of the same setup here. No, Derek?
Yeah, it's basically exactly the same, and Ober is not quite as good of a pitcher as Pablo is, doesn't have as long of a leash as Pablo does. Ober generally, in a normal start for him, he'll throw like 85 pitches. And this isn't necessarily going to be a normal start because he's facing the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are basically completely healthy now. They project out as the best offense in baseball right now, at least the kind of off the lineup that they're going to roll out today. So this is a really tough spot for Ober. He's got to go 6 innings for a guy he doesn't have like a 6-inning leash to begin with. Then he's facing the Dodgers. He's facing them in Dodger Stadium, the 5th best park in baseball for hitting. I don't understand this market, especially after, what we saw with Pablo last night. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The bat is projecting 13.8. This is like almost 4 outs under. Yeah. So, it's minus 150. I know a lot of sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to pay juice like that. there's plenty of value, even at minus 150.
Value is value, whatever side of even money it still exists, just because it's heavily juiced. I mean, a minus.
Minus 130 is fantastic. I love that. We had it, I forget, it was, I think, around there earlier today, and this was one that moved quite a bit, but the number's still good.
Yeah. If you love your score count, I'm not sure what their limiting thing is, but you'll certainly end up, I would assume, with some very good closing line value, which could certainly flag the account. But that number's way off market and something that, yeah, you could get down as long as you're aware that things happen with those accounts too. And that's just another battle of the game. Don't have to pay the juice if you win, Dougie Buckets. Yeah, but there's lots of other ramifications. So let's go with Ober on the under. Thank you, Dell. 17.5 outs minus 150. Jumping over to our next release. I believe we are on 4 here on a busy Tuesday morning. We are at Bet365. Ding, ding, ding. Maybe we are answering that question about which book is probably the best for finding lines at this time of the day. Secondary books do include DraftKings.
Yeah, same exact line at DraftKings. MGM has a similar line.
Nice. So the game in question here, Arizona at Oakland. The Diamondbacks at the Athletics. We are looking at pitcher outs. Pitcher outs for release number 4. Oakland's Kyle Muller, over 16.5 outs, even money. Muller over 16.5 outs, even money. Pinnacle about 20 points shorter than this, so that's always a good indication of where the market's going. I love sometimes, Derek, when you send in the message to me and let's say as a recreational bettor, you tell someone to do this, they'll probably say, I don't want to bet an over 16.5 outs with a guy with a 7.34 ERA. And right away, you're probably already extracting value out of that because of that perception in people in betting like that. I mean, he has a 364 BABIP, right? So when you send me these things, so I just love to go and look at like the underlying metrics to see where he is unlucky, right?
Yeah.
364 BABIP, massive, 2 runs above his projected ERA. I know there was some love for the Arizona lineup. I said it maybe 2 weeks ago, and you stopped me and said, it's not that great of a lineup.
Yeah, it's not like terrible, but it's definitely no better than average. And they're getting a pretty significant park downgrade today going into Oakland, which is basically the best pitcher's park in baseball. So yeah, Muller's not a good pitcher, but he's not as bad as his current ERA or even his current peripherals indicate. He's a bad pitcher. He's not a horrible one, but he's a bad pitcher in a good matchup. He's in a great park. He's facing this average to below average offense. It's, pretty good pitching weather. And that's going to be enough. It's not like he has to go super, super deep here. He's a guy who generally has a decent leash. Will throw in the mid 90s, in a normal start. And so, this isn't even one where he necessarily has to complete an inning. He needs to pitch into the 6th. He doesn't even have to complete the 6th. So this is a good spot. The bat is projecting 18.5 and we're getting 16.5 at even money. So this is a nice one.
And always trying to look at outs in which ways you can win a bet and which ways obviously you can lose a bet. Another way you can win this bet is just Oakland sacrificing their starting pitching, just because you've seen 7 earned runs and get those 18 outs. So there is that situation too. And you said,
that's always on the table for a guy like this in this spot too.
100%. I have to think Oakland will want to let the guy pitch. They should be in no rush to go to the pen of theirs. Absolutely. They have no interest to salvage anything, basically. So it's here's your start. 100 pitches regardless. Let's go.
Yeah.
So love that. Hopefully that shortens up, and it should be, because Pinnacle about 20 points shorter, as I said. And let's get to the final release here on like I said, an absolutely busy Tuesday. The market just moving everywhere. We are at Bet365, but this pretty widely available. Bet Rivers, PointsBet, Game in question, Yankees at Blue Jays, New York at Toronto. My question to you, Derek, will Alek Manoah figure it out?
He's not this bad. I never thought he was as good as people thought he was to begin with, but he's not this bad.
Someone told me last night, just at my baseball game, I don't know how factual it is. He said he hasn't generated a swing and miss on his slider, which I find hard to believe. But even if that number is remotely true, that's obviously saying something. Yeah. Let's go to player hits. Player hits. And if you follow the show, you kind of probably know where we're going with this. As I'm scanning it to make sure our number is there.
Still there.
Fantastic. Great eyes. Must be nice to be young. For our final release today, the Yankees, Jake Bauers under 0.5 hits plus 130. Going back to the under hits well plus 130. Let us know where you got it. Perhaps maybe you have to find it in a total base market at a different book. But Bauers under 0.5 hits plus 130. And as soon as I see these offensive plays from you, Derek, I know that there's obviously a pinch hit risk. So what is it here with Bauers today versus Gausman?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Bauers, now, he hasn't played a ton of games yet for the Yankees here, but he's been pinch hit for 71% of the time.
Interesting.
Against righties, which is a lot. Now, the bat does account for noise. It regresses that number. But even when you do that, we're still at about a 60% pinch hit risk for this guy.
Ooh, I see 140 at points bet, Derek. Sorry.
Oh, they were 130 before. So, all right, great. If you can get it plus 140. Yeah, they were plus 135 this morning. Then they moved to plus 130. So if you get them at plus 140, great, even better. But yeah, I mean, the pinch risk here is enormous. He's getting pinch hit for like all the time. And he's facing a really good pitcher in Kevin Gausman. So it's not even like if he's in there and he gets 2 at-bats against Gausman that he's necessarily going to do anything with them, because Gausman's really good and Gausman has a large reverse platoon split. So he's actually better against lefties like Bauers than he is against righties. So just everything really kind of stacks up against him here. We're getting him at plus 130 when, let me see what the projection is here. So the implied line here is about 0.86. The bat is saying 0.58. So we're getting some really nice value here. Projects to win about 55% of the time at plus 130 or plus 140 is great odds.
Yep. Always love to see it. And as you know, if you place that bet at 365 to have playable action, that player needs to start. So there is always the risk of Bauers not starting.
Right. So if it's, I mean, we had one of those the other day. It was McCann, pinch hit risk, didn't start, no action, which is fine. But if he does start, you're getting great value. Yes.
So let's go through the big list today, as producer Mick's going to have to help me out with remembering what we started off with. Shane Bieber under 5.5 Ks minus 120. Then we went to Luis Castillo under 5.5 Ks minus 140. For our third play, Bailey Ober under 17.5 outs minus 150. Wouldn't be surprised if that one closed at 16. And then Mueller over 16.5 outs, even money. That probably stays at 16.5, but certainly will shorten up. And then Bauers, the pinch hit risk, massive, under 0.5 hits, plus 130. People went to points bet, got it at 10 points better, but that's where we stand today, Tuesday, May 16th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:15. Do us a favor. Hit the like, subscribe button, free plays, free releases. Usually you got to pay for this stuff, but Derek's the gem that he is. I mean, his numbers literally, it is absolutely insane, Derek. Every morning I wake up and see the market move to your numbers.
Yeah, I put in, the plays that I think look good in the morning, and by the time the show comes along, like
it's nuts. And we kind of take it for granted here on the show sometimes, the influence that does have on the betting market, and it's really impressive. So congrats to you and your model. It's something I follow daily, and it's something, if you follow Derek's numbers, then you get to know his system, right? where they favor teams, like how much you value the LA Dodgers lineup, for example, and like how much you can tell value games in Boston with good weather, and like you see the angles, and it definitely turns you into a better thinking sports bettor. Absolutely, when you can figure those things out. So thanks to Derek for everything he does here. I'm Josh Ingles. He's Derek Carty. This is the Bat X Release Show. See you back here tomorrow, 9:15.